Hello everyone, I'm Hanna, Evolutionary Astrologer, and today I want to share with you the chart of someone very special, the chart of Harry Potter, which is kind of cool and mind-blowing because he's not an actual person, but we have a date of birth. And if we have a date of birth, we can cast a chart. So let me show you my screen so you can see the chart of Harry. So first of all, I'm using a solar chart. So you see the sun on the ascendant, right? Um, there's no time of birth, so we can't really see the houses. So I'm just using a solar chart so we have an idea of, where the planets were when he was born. We just don't know exactly in which houses. But still, I'm going to show you this in just a little bit, how this solar chart is actually making a lot of sense. These houses actually, work out really well for his chart. So first of all, Harry Potter was born during an eclipse season, and that is the sun on the north node of the moon. So when you're born during an eclipse, you come in with a very special sense of purpose. You are that special child. You have a special destiny. You're the chosen one, right? That's something that's said over and over and over again, that he is the chosen one. And it's that sense of, I'm here for something really important. I'm here for something meaningful. Um, I come in with a very special mission, so it's for something really special, which is very much his story, right? Really also amplified by the moon in Pisces. So moon in Pisces is, through Pisces is where we can tap into the collective consciousness, is where we touch the masses. It's very much like there's a larger cause here, something that is beyond me, beyond my wants and desires. And, life has other plans, which is again very much about his dynamics in his life, right? And through Pisces, we are connected to everyone. We're connected to everything. So very reflective here because, Harry was well known. Everybody knew his name. Everybody knew his story. Everybody knew who he was. And we can say that about, the story in the books. Everyone knows who he is, all the characters. Um, know about him. But, if we bring this to, our human world, everyone also knows who he is. Even if you've never read the books, even if you've never watched the movies, you've heard his name before. So it's that moon in Pisces that really transcends the boundaries, the boundaries of culture, of age, of sex, of race. Everyone knows who Harry Potter is, and that success worldwide. It's a very Pisceans. Through Pisces, we go viral. Through Pisces, we tap into everyone and everything and everyone. Yeah. So when you see this Leo North Node and the Sun in Leo and the Pisces moon, because Leo is the visibility. Leo, Sun in Leo, North Node in Leo is like being visible, being recognized. People know my name. People know who I am. He's known as the boy who lived, right? And Leo is life. Leo is the continuation of life. So not letting, your flame, your fire, whatever that flame that keeps you alive, that vitality to be put out. So it's, so reflective here of his, being the boy who lived. And he's, of course, a sun in Leo and a North Node in Leo. It's like, I'm not going anywhere. Another thing about his moon in Pisces, which is moon in astrology represents the family, and especially the mother. So moon in Pisces can't be a very sacrificial quality to the mother, which is again very, very reflective of his circumstances because his mother literally sacrificed herself to protect Harry, to protect her baby. So it's that selflessness, that heroic quality to her. And, through her sacrificing her life, she prevented the killing curse from, working on Harry. And it was that motherly love, the moon, the love, the mother, that was that, the protective spell, that barrier that, her love protected him from death. I mean, transcendental love, very Piscean, the love that transcends, time and space. And, a little bit more about this moon because of the circumstances, that certain level of victimization. Even with this works really well here because even with the solar chart, even without having a time of birth and really knowing, um, his houses, through the solar chart, we're perceiving the chart through the eyes of the sun. And the sun is his mission, his sense of purpose here. So in this case, makes the moon, the moon is in the eighth house, the house of Scorpio, which is also the house of death, symbolically, and also actual death, which is, again, the case in his story, the death of his family, death, eighth house, family, moon. So, and the worst case scenario being that, everything that happened, the betrayal, this moon also, this moon also trines um, Uranus in Scorpio. And so it brings that, Uranus is our friends, our community. So that trust, trusting the friends Scorpio that ended up going behind their back and telling their location to the Dark Lord, so that's also happening here. That works really well with the story. And Moon in Pisces can also show that the family is not around, the family is absent. Again, Neptune and Pisces, they transcend, they go beyond the physical. They're otherworldly. And, maybe sometimes, for Moon and Pisces people, sometimes the parents are there, but they're not emotionally present all the time. But, or they are working too much. Like, whatever circumstances that bring the context of, sometimes the parents not being fully present. And in this case, they're not physically present, they're not emotionally present, we can see that there's a lot of connection happening, but, the parents are not around from a physical point of view because they were, again, eighth house killed. And the opposition, this moon's also opposes Saturn in Virgo, and Saturn can't bring persecution, punishment and persecution, which again happened to the family. So the Saturn is also, that sense of that we see in Harry throughout the whole seven books is doing the right thing, that strong sense of honor. It's a Saturn in Virgo, so really standing up for what's right. For example, when Cedric, the protecting Cedric's body from Voldemort, so at the highest level, that Saturn Moon connection is about, integrity and high morals. But then we can also talk about, I mean, this can be a much longer conversation about, Saturn Moon showing skipped steps. So growing up too fast and also having to kind of go back to, um, make up for some of the developmental steps that were sometimes rushed. We know that he had to mature very quickly. The authorities in his life, his uncle and his aunt, were not really great, so there's a lot of that happening in his psyche. And the moon in Pisces is also very compassionate, right? That's another thing that we see over and over again. He's deeply compassionate. And he has this, we talked about the mother being sacrificial, but also he has a sacrificial quality as well. He at the end, spoiler alert, right? He ends up sacrificing himself, which again takes us back to the moon in the eighth and the death element to the story. And also, he was born with a Mars Pluto conjunction in Libra. So, Mars Pluto is, again, like this constantly facing death, his own death, but also the resurrection, the resurrection stone, the rebirth. So it's all the themes of Mars, Pluto. It's like dying. And a lot of times it's a symbolic death. Something in us needs to die in order to be transformed, purged, and so that rebirth, that transformational chemical process can take place. So in this case, a lot of this happens throughout, the series, but also an actual death and an actual rebirth. And yeah, and he's, just going back to the moon really quick, he's also very kind to, the unpopular kids, to, he's constantly showing kindness because he knows how it feels like to be, the outcast, to not be loved and to feel safe and to feel, you know, um, good. So this moon also makes a grand trine to Mercury in Cancer. And Cancer being that sense of home and and also the Uranus. So it's a grand trine of the Mercury, the Uranus, and the moon that bring, the family stuff, the sense of home and the safety that is compromised, especially in early life. Parents died. He has to live with the awful um, uncle and aunt, and the parents were betrayed by the friends, all that friend groups stuff going on that's connected to the parents and also ruler of his north node, the south node, sorry. And the Mercury in Cancer is his actual home with the moon in Pisces. Moon in Pisces making him having to adapt to larger circumstances and really deal with it. So the first 10 years of his life, we can very much see, a lot of those themes. The neglect, Moon and Pisces can at times be, going through circumstances in early life, especially of neglect, of not getting the personal attention early on, and worst case scenarios like deprivation, which we know that the his uncle and his aunt would actually deprived him of food and meals, that abusive upbringing. So connected to this Mars, Pluto, and, in Libra, it's really that combination of intensity and cruelty and punishment with the moon Saturn. He was locked in the cupboard for like under the stars and years of neglect and years of abuse. So definitely need to go to therapy, right? Definitely he's been through a lot. I mean, he's been through a lot in his first few years of life with the parents, with the uncle and the aunt. And then he, for since he gets to Hogwarts all the way till, the end of the series, it's a lot of difficulties, a lot of struggles, a lot of hardship. So definitely someone who needs to go to therapy and unpack a lot of things. And being born with that Mars Pluto, it's about confronting the evils, facing evil, fighting against evil. Survival is on the line, taking action, saving himself, saving everyone else. That's the moon in Pisces, the Leo sun and the Pisces moon. It's like, I'm here for a larger cause. It's just so much bigger than I am. And Leo also bringing the courage with the Mars Pluto. It's like, I'm going to face the evils. And ultimately, at the highest um at the highest expression, Leo is the hero. And he is a hero. Amplified by the sun squaring Mars and Pluto. So again, facing a lot of many wounds, a lot of intensity, a lot of drama. Pluto and Mars bring a lot of drama and intensity and wounds, and really facing that. So he's a Sun Mars, he's a Sun Pluto, but also that strong will, strong focus, strong courage. And Mars Pluto people have scars because they're facing many, many battles. And it's interesting that Mars Pluto people have scars, and he actually has a scar on his forehead. So, and dealing with a lot of death, right? His parents, his own death, Cedric's, Sirius, everything that happens, and the Battle of Hogwarts, his friends die. So it's like this constant feeling of whoever I get close to, there's that chance of losing them, and many times losing them. So many losses. And it's also interesting how he shows great talent for defense against the dark arts, which is again the Mars Pluto really fighting against the dark, and fighting for the light, that being that Leo, fighting on behalf of the light. So another quick thing about the moon Saturn, I mentioned, this moon opposite Saturn. I mentioned the, high morals. He's also a Saturn square Neptune that really amplifies that, that moral compass. He never considers the dark side, not even once, not even after everything he's been through. So that's there, Saturn, again, going back to what I already said, Saturn being the parents and the role models and the parental figures, and Neptune square that says, okay, they're not around, they're absent, they're in the spirit world now. And that deep desire for a reliable Saturnian authority, it's a Saturn in Virgo. So really that desire for, an authority that's first of all, physically present, who's here, who gives me the proper guidance and direction and what I did not receive in the first 10, 11 years of life. And he finds that in Dumbledore. He finds that in Sirius, and then he loses them, so it's, and then later on, he becomes an authority. He has a public function, that with that moon in Pisces, there is again, there's a larger cause. There's a public um, mission here. So he becomes an auror, he has a very public position in government, in law, Moon Saturn. Um, and I think he later becomes part of the law enforcement department as well. Uh, I mean, I cannot not talk about the Jupiter squaring Neptune, which is the magical world, the magical abilities. I mean, he's a wizard. I mean, that's so graphic, Saturn and Neptune, they transcend, they're beyond the physical. It's spirit, the spiritual, the magical world, the whatever is not in the physical reality. He's definitely not a muggle, right? And it's in Virgo, the both the Saturn and the Jupiter are in Virgo, which shows his skills, his talents. He's a master, he knows many spells. He teaches a lot of the spells to the other kids. Again, like really stepping into an authority role early on, when he was 15, when they create the Dumbledore's army, and he's like the youngest wizard to be able to cast Patronus. So it's like a lot of these things that really show his skills and talents and capacities. I mean, his South Node, forgot to talk about his South Node, is in Aquarius, which is very much about his, Aquarius is genius and brilliance and intelligence and being advanced and high intellect. So a lot of that, I mean, we see that a lot of his skills and capacities also, the friendships, the friends are important. The team is important. And he's so loyal to them. Aquarius is the team, the group, the allies, the organizations. He's part of, the Order of the Phoenix. I mean, how freaking, like, it's an organization. That's the Aquarius. That's the ruler, the ruler of Aquarius is Uranus. but it's a Uranus in Scorpio, which is the the symbolism of the phoenix. So, it's the death and the rebirth. So now here you have the Uranus in Scorpio. Uh, and of course, Dumbledore's army and all of that as well. So all very Aquarius, being in these groups and teams and organizations, but also he's the face of it. He's the Leo. He's the sun in Leo. He's the North Node in Leo. He's really the main leading uh, person in the group. He's the protagonist, in the stories, of course, in the stories, but also in his immediate environment. So, and at the same time, with the Uranus and Scorpio shows that belonging to groups is not always easy. We see that with his parents uh, later on in Harry's life as well. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of struggles. People are dying. He's facing a lot of difficulties. That's all the Scorpio stuff. He feels disempowered many times. He faces rejection. When he's telling everyone that who is back, everyone is rejecting him. Everyone is saying that he's full of lies. He's feeling isolated. He's feeling ostracized, misunderstood. Remember the whole thing about Potter stinks, right? So it's a lot of that, uh, in many ways, feeling disempowered by his community. And also the burden of fame. It goes back to the sun and the moon that I started out, with, that sun in Leo, visibility. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone's talking about you. I'm in the spotlight. And the moon in Pisces, the burden of fame, overly exposed, overly seen, which is not always easy, which is kind of the opposite because before Hogwarts, he had no friends. He was a complete reject. But then later on, he finds his tribe and his friends, and despite the challenges, they really form a really strong support system, with Ron and Hermione, who really give him that love and acceptance that they're like the ride or die, he's ride or die people. So it's also part of that makes a lot of sense here with his chart. So one thing that I also want to show you is Daniel's chart, the actor who plays Harry, in their synastry that also works really well. Really interesting. I'll just actually put up his chart first. Harry is a big Leo person. Daniel is a big Leo person as well. They both have Sun in Leo and they have the same nodal axis. It's just a reverse nodal axis. So I'm actually going to put Harry's chart again. Harry's south node is in Aquarius, and Daniel, so the actor who plays Harry Potter, has a north node in Aquarius. So the same thing with the Leo. So they have the same nodal axis, but it's reversed. So usually when you have, opposite nodes or the same nodal axis in synastry, there's something really profound here. There's many layers of this connection, which is, of course, for Daniel, something, that actually completely changed his life. So there's a lot of these similar configurations. They both have the sun in Leo, so they're both the special child. In Daniel's case, he's a special child who gets to play this extraordinary character. And we talked about Harry's fame. What about Daniel's fame? He became recognized. He became very well known around the same age that Harry was going through the realization that he was well known. He was getting all this visibility all of a sudden. So there is that, for Daniel, there's also this sense of special destiny. I'm the chosen one to play this character. I'm here to do something important. And, for Harry, of course, it's saving the world from a dark wizard. And for Daniel, it's like playing this really special role. And because Daniel's south node is in Leo, and then the ruler, it's that sun in Leo. When we look a little bit to past lives and where he's coming from, this is probably not the first time that he has this sort of special destiny and that visibility and that prominence and the privilege, really. Leo is performance and acting and actors. We usually have a strong Leo. It's very much about taking up the stage. He has also a Mercury in Leo conjunct his sun. So, Mercury being the professional aspect, work. Mercury is all about work. And then another thing really interesting is that they both have the moon in Pisces. We don't know the exact degrees because we don't have the time of birth, so I wouldn't be surprised if the their moons, were conjunct each other. But it's so interesting how they're both touching the collective, and everyone knows who they are. Everyone knows who this character is, and everyone knows who Daniel is. Maybe you don't even know his name, but he's Harry Potter, So it's that capacity to travel through everyone's homes. And regardless of, the culture, where you're from, and what religion, like, regardless of, you know who Harry Potter is, and the actor, you'll recognize him. Um, and just one last thing about the synastry. I mean, it's also really interesting how there is a Venus Jupiter connection, because in Harry's case, Harry, in terms of, his money story, he actually inherited a lot of money from his parents, so his financial situation was pretty good. But for Daniel, he, he made so much money. He was like through, playing this character. He was at some point, I think, the richest or one of the richest teenagers in England. So, there's that financial component happening here through, playing this character. The other similarity in their charts is that, Harry was born with a Pluto Mars conjunction, and Daniel was born with a square, a Mars Pluto square. I know it's a large orb of like 10 degrees, but I still think it's really working here because it's that experiencing crisis, dealing with that intensity, dealing with that loss, dealing with death. For Daniel, as far as I know, there was alcohol misuse, there's the intense side of fame that was not easy for him, especially with the moon in Pisces, where it can lead to all sorts of, it doesn't always know how to deal with intensity, how to deal with so much going on, and that being overly exposed and being overwhelmed by the intensity of fame and not knowing how to deal with it all. So, I know that when the first Harry Potter movie came out, it was really difficult for him to be in school because, people were really, bullying him and doing all these jokes and a lot of jealousy, which is a very Leonian theme. Oh, he's a special child, and let's put him down. Let's make him feel bad about it. So a lot of jealousy and you know, not always being easy around people and community and friends and peers. And then the another really interesting thing is to see that um, Harry was born with a Saturn, Neptune, square. Here's Saturn and Neptune, they're squaring each other. And Daniel was born with a Saturn Neptune conjunction, you know. So a lot of similarities here. Very interesting to see, a fictional character in the chart, in his chart working so, so, so well. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, give me the thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and let me know whose chart you would like to see um, being analyzed. So see you next time.